In Friese News Holland, welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That, by the way, is Dutch for get a fresh nose.
Wow.
Yeah, it doubles as what happens when you make turn one contact, and as a Dutch idiom, meaning to go outside and get some fresh air. We hope you all got some fresh air during the summer break, but now it is time to return to our TV sets. Do they still call them that? TV? Do you get a TV set?
I don't think so.
I think you just get the one thing. You just get the screen.
Yeah, I don't think the set did it ever imply that there were multiple parts? It just felt like maybe the size of it.
You had the antenna.
Right.
The rabbit ear antenna, and so I do think you might have had like at various ways that like you had the screen, like you had the main part of the TV. Then you might have like a couple things you plugged in that were part of your basic make it work. So that might be where it comes from. Although back in the day they also like sold them as furniture.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird thing too.
That's true. Yeah. Now they all just come preloaded with all manner of tomfoolery you don't want.
I was talking about this with Patrick Klepek over at Remap, where he's in the market for a new TV, and I was like, man, this is a weird time to buy them because everyone is suddenly acutely aware that basically they're all loss leaders for like privacy violating ad tech.
Yeah, got to get your pie hole on. I'm Drew Scanlon. Joining me, Danny O'Dwyer. How are you, Danny?
Very excited. This is episode 360, by the way.
Whoa!
So shout out to all of our Xbox fans out there. Exactly. I hear booting up in the background, and also shout out to
Lance
the
podcast
Stroll's,
is about to red ring.
Oh
I know, right? And shout out to Lance Stroll's favorite move to do in a Formula One car.
There you go. Jump in. Inhale. Remember the inhale?
I don't. I remember the one that got banned or it wasn't allowed outside of Europe, which is the one where the mama has a baby and it shoots out of her and flies through the sky, and it grows up and ages and turns into an old man, and then it's like flying through the sky this entire time, and then lands in a grave at the end and says, like, life goes fast. Play more games or something.
Whoa. Okay. I remember the one where everyone's using finger guns.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
That one's really fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right. Just making sure I write down for the show notes. Xbox baby commercial.
Yep. Important stuff here.
Finger guns.
For all the Formula One fans out there.
My fridge, when I open it, like the air rushing in makes this whistle noise that sounds exactly like, just a little like when you open the door, but it sounds exactly like I have just pressed the Xbox button to turn my console on. Where it goes like, it's like those notes that the air makes. So every time I open my fridge, I feel like I've turned on an Xbox.
What happened to the whole smart fridge thing, right? I don't need it to do.
It's still
like, the whole like,
Ask Jeff Backlar.
I'll buy you a new pint of milk when your milk is out. I don't need that. But like, let me customize it. Let me give it an opening noise. You know what I mean? Like that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Or like a
Hack
little
your fridge's
screen.
firmware.
Yeah, like memes on the screen. I could have blinking Drew, on the screen. Could we put like fridges are like maybe the most like I'm going to stick stuff on this piece of furniture thing there is, right? Yeah, stick a little OLED on there, like, magnets are a thing. So like, just, make something weird. Make something weird there.
That's Rob Zach. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing great. I think, Danny, if you want to look at the most aspirational thing that maybe has ever been cut to video, it is the what is like a day made of glass from Corningware or something like that. It is their vision of what the future looked like back in like 2010.
Oh, wow.
And it's all like, what's going to be great is everything made out of glass that displays things. And I feel like I was like, who is this for? But now I know it's for Danny.
It's for me. I'm looking at
Danny's
it right
like,
now.
This could, like, I swear to God, they FaceTime like a grandparent from their fucking cooktop. Like there's like a window opens on the cooktop. It's like, hi, Graham, and they're still cooking breakfast because it's a day made of glass and everything's a screen.
There's a good looking fridge. I'll say that it literally has fake magnets, like fake pictures of kids, but they're moving. That's not quite what I need, especially because I don't know who these children are. I don't need stranger children. But I do. My fridge is like on the way out. It's like an old fridge that came with the house, this busted ass house where nothing works. And we've had to like, we have a friend who's a plumber who like comes in and fixes the ice machine, but like doesn't charge us a fortune. But I have to like get in there with a knife every week to like cut up all the ice. And yeah, the fridge motor is making weird noise. So I don't know.
I promise I will let you get to the patron sponsors in a second. But
no, they want to hear all about this.
We were trying to make it to the end of our time in our condo without changing the fridge. But the seal was so bad. It was aging. Over the time we were there, you keep cranking the coldness thing to the max because now it's like it's not holding temperature at 3. We gotta go to 5. And
it's like Star Trek.
It's like it's working. It's fine. We're keeping on with it. Only after we moved, really, and we got a nice fancy that we inherited basically from the people on this place. We have a nice fancy built-in. We thought the trade-off we had made with our local dairy was that, the fresh dairy was so good, but those glass bottles, little caps, like the milk doesn't stay good for that long. You got to drink it within a couple days. No, that's not true. That's not real.
No.
It was the fridge.
Fridge was just at like 50 degrees.
The fridge kept like dipping up, just kissing like 45 degrees. But the thing is, we did have temperature like meters in there. And it was showing like you open the fridge and it's like cool, like it's holding the right temperature. But what we didn't know, probably now in retrospect, was that's the temperature it was when you opened the fridge. Oh. After you shut the fridge, after opening and getting things out of it, how long was it? How long before it hit like 35 degrees? Yeah. So we were like, okay, it was like a bottle of champagne. If you're gonna open the fresh milk, you just gotta you gotta finish it, right? It's like this entire quart's just gotta go down. And now it's like, I don't know about that milk, hon. It's been open for 2 days, and it's like it's perfectly fresh. It's fine.
Keeping Louis Pasteur on edge. Yep. Wow. I just looked up the 5 best fridges from ortings.com and they all look identical. They all look absolute. Like if one of these shot my mom and I had to go to a police station to pick out which one it was, I couldn't. Get away scot-free.
You want the smart fridge, but you want the smart fridge to become self-aware and kill people, and you're like, people. But that's how I know the tech is good.
Just the right people, home invaders. I'll trust Mom. AI to do that. When my kids' parents comes over to pick them up,
the fridge will execute you if you don't remove things past the expiry.
Exactly. They'll see our fresh farm eggs that we get from the chickens every day, not in the fridge, and they'll be like,
and you're like, I'm European.
Exactly. I'm European. They still have the albumin on the outside. They're okay. You don't have to put them in the fridge unless you wash them, and it's like exterminate.
So. The one thing I'll say, I don't know if this is in fridge land, if this is caught on, but the thing they were moving toward was the smart fridge, like it having subscription features. That didn't really catch on because nobody actually nobody goes through their consumables at that predictable a rate, really. And so
correct.
We had a subscription, not a subscription. We had a recurring order with our dairy, and
we used to call that the milkman.
Dude, we have a milk. Basically, that's what it is. Wow. Like the dude shows up with the old glass quart bottles and everything, and it's awesome.
How retro!
And you put it back. It's fucking delicious. Because I'm in New England, which is the Ireland of America.
I'll allow it.
And good morning to you, Mr. Zachney.
But the thing is, though, we have a downstairs fridge, the pantry fridge, and you're just sort of putting milk, eggs in there. It's all good. And then after like at the midpoint of the summer, I open this thing and it finally dawns on me that our steady weekly order has vastly outstripped our consumption.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm like, we have 12 quarts of milk down here.
Yes.
And 5 dozen eggs.
Let's go.
We need to pause for a couple weeks before we
You need to have
order
a big
this stuff.
breakfast, my brother. You need to make a lot of
Oh,
scrambled
believe me,
eggs.
there were some scrambles, there were some skillets. Like that was, I rose to the moment. But the thing that, so the Smart Fridge stuff that orders food didn't catch on. But I don't know, Danny, in your investigation, there was a moment where they were trying to sell us on this notion that you have like, instead of opening your entire fridge just to get like a can of soda or like a bottled water, you open a beverage like panel on the front that lets you access like the bottles on the shelf, but keeps the fridge mostly shut.
I've seen, I've some of the more expensive ones that I've been browsing since we started this conversation 58 minutes ago, do seem to have that. Yes, or like a see-through glass panel that's like, here's that rosé you've been thinking about opening for the past week, and that type of stuff. So. Yeah, maybe I'll dabble. I don't want to spend like $3,500 on a fridge though. So therein lies the problem.
But you could,
I'm unwilling.
thanks to our patron sponsors.
Boom!
There we
Formula
go, folks.
One, everyone, welcome to it. If you're new to this podcast, it's usually like this. A very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we've actually got a preseason primer episode just for you, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you would like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 338. Good time to do it because we are just starting the second half of the season. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/ShiftF1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the pod early, along with bonus pods and videos exclusive to our patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games.
Are you laughing because I did the D-Generation X crotch slap just there?
Yep.
For no reason.
Experiments with other racing series and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/ShiftF1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on this month, Danny?
The last one we did was The Great Race, the 1965 movie.
Right.
A grenade that Drew popped, left on the desk, and walked out of the room because he was not available to record.
Oh, I haven't yet listened to your guys' discussion, but I did watch the film.
Fever dream. Fever. Very
They
long.
used to make films, guys.
That's that is an argument they would make is that they made a film. The Great
How about that
Race.
iceberg?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that whole part. It's very
Drew, we were so
hero's journey.
curious. We wanted to hold you to account for this, to
Yes.
be quite honest, because our feeling was that
God.
there was an incredible amount of craft. Like, this was a fucking movie.
Yes.
And it was one of the least funny things. It so badly wanted to be funny.
Oh my god.
yes.
But it just whiffs so hard and so consistently, almost across the board, except for when, like, Jack Lemmon is just allowed to do his thing.
It's like a Laurel and Hardy send up that just does not work at all. And the worst part, and we talked about this on the podcast over on Patreon, is that whenever we do any of these, it's always wonder how long this one is. You know, maybe it's a tight 90. This movie was like 2 hours 40 minutes.
Christopher Nolan's The Great Race.
Oh my
Actually,
god!
I would kill for that though. This is the thing. Like, he's like, I'm a filmmaker. I'm an old school filmmaker, and I'm gonna make a big ensemble globetrotting comedy. And I'd be like, fuck yes, do it, Chris. Everyone says you're great at two things: your sense of humor and romance.
Anyway, what are we doing this month? We haven't decided yet.
That's right.
We'll have to figure it out. You'll have to figure it out.
Somebody
listener.
emailed a suggestion, a Chinese rally movie, Pegasus 3, that they saw a
that
video.
trailer.
VFX artists were like saying this looks pretty tight, and I'll be honest, it looks pretty tight.
Do we have to watch Pegasus 1 and 2? Or?
So this is my question. I don't know. Pegasus 3 looks good.
The Pegasus Cinematic Universe. This is a trailer here on IMAX. Is a YouTube channel. This looks pretty dope.
Okay.
I'd watch Pegasus 3. Look how handsome
All right.
all these gentlemen are. Anyway, you know who's also handsome? All of our title sponsors over at Shift+F1, including Xylander Al-Gashwari to plot to produce the military-industrial complex, War Izzle, R.I.P. Egberto and Igor Furman, that video game podcast. Happy first birthday, Margot Racing. Woo!
Aw.
Eaching Wells, Dr. V, Deange, It's a Me, Ferrario. Would you kindly race it, Sepang? Thank you, Andrew Ryan. And Nicotine Pouches, Mojo Nixon, Get Rich or Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphers Training, Turf SCS, Michael Maves, Cigarettes, TelemetryDeck.com, FTC, Bottas Calendar 2026, Drew Stewart, the Formula One Aramco Saudi Arabia Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, Bailey Foot, Abraham Getchell. I think Patreon is broke because the name is blank. No, it literally says that.
Wow.
You're part of the Buddy Crime cinematic universe. Snigs, Alex Goucher, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Romph, Fancy Triceratops, Lachlan, The Maddened Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. It's nice to see that all of our patrons have also gone a bit mad during
Fancy
this F1
Triceratops.
break.
Who did they used to be?
Oh, they've been Fancy Triceratops for a little bit. I don't know who they were before, but I'm not going to dead name them right here. They are Fancy Triceratops. I respect it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's evocative for sure.
It is. Yeah. What are you seeing? I'm seeing a Triceratops with like high heels on. Like I played a lot of.
Oh
Goat
no! See,
Simulator
I'm like
3.
Mr. Peanut. Like I'm like full on like Fred Astaire, swell, like Fancy Triceratops, top hat,
cane and hat.
collar. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
French
Very
cuffs.
I like it. I like it.
Nice.
See, I want a GIF of that on my fridge.
We can make that happen.
Thank you.
Jeff Backlar can make that happen. All right. Let's take it to the news, everyone. There
do it.
is some surprising. Well, I mean, we had a month to generate some news, and
There wasn't that much.
There wasn't that much. I mean, people.
It was quiet.
Hey, you ever go on vacation and then you turn on the TV and your boss is telling you that someone else has your job and you don't, and you're just out of your new F1 team that you were sort of laying the cornerstone of?
Tell us, Rob.
That happened to my friend Graham.
Is that how it went down?
Look, he got a heads up that this was happening. So I'll be honest. I haven't followed too closely since they got in F1 the internal politics around the Andretti F1 effort, the Cadillac team. But what happened in the last week or so was that they replaced their team principal, Graham Loudon, with Marcin Budkowski. And that name might be familiar to you because that was
I've been to Poland.
Well, yeah. Okay, so it is. I did have to rack my brain. It's like, is that actually familiar, or is that just like there's four of them at CD Projekt, and like, yeah,
everyone in Poland is called Marcin.
One of my best friends, Marcin. Shout out to homie. But also Budkowski. There's a lot. There's a lot of them
correct.
too.
It's the Joe Smith of Poland.
But so like he was announced at a press conference by Cadillac that he's their new team principal. And then like even in the press conference, there's little hints that this seems weird, and the race has a good gloss on this where they sort of have a round table with their various reporters. But there's things in this press conference that are like kind of surprising. One, Graham was informed of the decision; it was not mutual, and so this is Graham Loudon is the person they brought in as their team principal. He is kind of a startup program guy in F1. He worked for the Marussia team back when they joined the sport. An effort that failed, but not really. Like they fielded a car. It's just the finances sucked when those three new teams came in, and it's not really anything you can point at the people who worked on the teams. But he is of that background of he's done a lot of this, like get an F1 team spun up, get them through all the hurdles to, basically, as you can imagine, there's tons of paperwork, certifications, compliance stuff that goes into launching an F1 team. He's, by all accounts, very good at this. The intention was always that, and this does seem like he knew this was the score. The intention was always that he was their startup phase team principal. It does seem like there was some sort of sudden like direction change about what startup phase meant and when it should end, because he was told he was no longer going to be team principal, and it seems like the expectation was he would see out the year at least. But instead they bring in Budkowski, who again was at Alpine before Laurent Rossi laid waste to the team, basically. So he's sort of there at peak Alpine, if memory serves. And he's been out of the sport for a little bit. He's been doing like Polish TV, but he's very well regarded.
What's it, just reality TV? He was just like on Polish 90 Day Fiance or something.
Yeah, he was like on he was on like Love Grass Plane, which is
I was about to say
Love Island.
Not many islands.
Just one sexy bachelor in a tent in the middle of the Great Eurasian Steppe. This week, Hussar training. Which of these ladies is the most capable of defending the homeland?
I love her, but her pierogies aren't as good as my mother's.
So
sorry, Poland.
Budkowski is named team principal, and they start asking questions like, "Hey, what are your plans? What do you think of the team?" He's like, "Well, I haven't been to the factory, so still getting up to speed on the team."
All right.
Wow. So clearly, not much of a heads up here.
This is the thing. Like, the parts of this that feel very fire drill are kind of alarming, because this is like, clearly they had an idea of a longer runway for Graham Loudon to come in, and then they would transition to like a more build it for combat team principle, right? Like the wartime conciliary.
Combat.
But then they've cut that short, and then they brought this guy in, and it seems like the entire transfer is very chaotic, and that just raises a lot of questions about like what's going on with this effort. The car hasn't set the world alight, but at the same time, it's a perfectly fine car, and as I think Ed Straw pointed out, the only model we've seen for someone coming into F1 and fielding a credible race car is the Haas model, where effectively you're buying parts off the rack from like Ferrari in that case, and you're building a kit Ferrari, and you're competing with that. Cadillac is, broadly, with the exception of the power unit, making their own car.
Right.
And for it to be not a catastrophe, and it hasn't been, right? Like, Aston Martin has been, until very recently, the catastrophe of the season. And that was like a stood up program that was like transitioning, but that's a program that went off the rails. Cadillac, by comparison, has been a little disappointing from like your most optimistic estimates, but again, still kind of credible. So it was interesting reading the roundtable at the race, which is a lot of writers that we've been sort of citing for years from Autosport previously. And the impression you get is it was kind of split. Graham Loudon deserved better. He's well regarded in the sport. He seems like he came in and did exactly what they asked him to do. And then he got fired really unceremoniously. And that seems a little bit shabby, and seems like maybe things are not super great over Cadillac. But the other side of this is Budkowski is very well regarded in F1. And if you had a chance to get him to take over your program, Graham, you're great, but the guy we want is available. He's ready to do it. We can get him in now, and it's time to move in. The other part that occurred to me reading about the timing of this is your startup mode runway can't really, if your intention is to go fields, like go start competing a little more for real in year 2, your startup runway guy can't run through the entire first season, because the stuff you're spinning up for next year is already in the works. Like the 2027 season has already begun on the technical side for a lot of these teams. And so that is the part of this that I'm wondering, like, was this kind of driven by the fact they kind of looked at the logic of their plan and realized, like, what we got out of Graham is what we wanted, and now we need to move on to someone who has a little more experience and more chops at a major racing team, operating year to year. Either way, it's the big thing. I think it's one of those things where the optics have been the biggest problem. It was kind of a shabby way to handle Loudon, and also it makes your team look a little bit again, unprofessional, but also
ramshackle.
what is the quality of decision making happening there, right? Like, what is your ability to plan and execute?
It's always so hard in these situations to sort of you're sort of reading the tea leaves a little bit, or interpreting the shadows on the cave wall a bit. But yeah, it does seem like, if nothing else from what you've told us, a snap decision, perhaps.
Or like not one based on performance, right? Like usually when a team principal gets ousted, it's like, oh, something has fallen off. But this is more like, oh, we miscalculated our timelines here, and actually we need to get our for real guy in, and whoops. And yeah, that
there was a sale.
Really
there was a sale on Polish engineers. You had to get it.
So there's two other things. One, I can't believe I'm citing this from the comment section of the race, but it's been on my mind a lot lately because this has come up in other American sports contexts. Cadillac's major sponsor is an insurance company, TWG. TWG and Delaware Life are at the center of a huge financial crime scandal starring Mark Warner, I want to say, who is the president of the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, was the owner briefly of the Los Angeles Lakers, and then suddenly sold them to Jared Kushner's little brother Josh and Bob Iger like last week. And Warner is the one who is at the center of the financial criminal complaint around these companies, because from what I've read, it seems the accusation is he used his position. He was on two sides of a transaction, basically, that he did not disclose. And it seems like the allegation is he had one of his insurance companies like pay out a lot of money to another company he owns, and didn't like reveal that he is basically paying max value on a policy of his own. And so he's in some significant like legal jeopardy is the implication, and it's raised questions about what's going on with the sale of the Lakers. He, after the investigation is announced, Pablo Torre on Pablo Finds Out, which is a investigative sports journalism podcast, was saying that the timing is like the allegations break, Warner goes to the White House, presents Trump with a World Series ring, and then suddenly he's selling the Lakers to a Kushner, like immediately after buying them. And TWG may also, like, who knows if their cash flow and ability to keep all their commitments going to the Cadillac team, who knows if that is like still fully on the rails, right? So like,
what's Cadillac, the threat to TWG? Because insurance companies have incredible overheads.
That I like they paid out a lot of money, but I also think it just seems like they might be in the process of like being in some legal jeopardy. I don't know. I don't know if that would
sponsoring an F1 team.
Yeah, I don't know if they like
ask Rich Energy.
Right. So there's a threat to like some of their financial pipeline being disrupted. So Cadillac is tangentially touching on this like scandal that's unfolding in American sports right now with Mark Warner. So it is kind of a weird situation for that team.
Scandals with advertisers in F1, not in my F1. Absolutely not.
Well, you think you're safe with an insurance company.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally what they're selling. If my fridge breaks, I want to get that pay packet out. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, we spent too much time talking about fridges, and we have to take an ad break. So we'll be back with the rest of the news in a moment. Okay. Well, speaking of questionable decisions at the top, a couple stories here that make me angry. Stefano Domenicali here, the race, I believe, talked with him. Yes. The race noted that we've been getting fewer on-screen graphics of the battery charge.
Yes.
And deployment and stuff that we were getting in the beginning of the season. So they asked F1 boss Stefano Domenicali about this. And I'm just going to let him take it. People are interested if you're overtaking or not. That's the vast majority of people. I agree with you that certain people are focused on this thing that is very important. It's like when you were opening the DRS, people were not interested in what was the cause of the pass. I had an incredible and interesting discussion with George Lucas on Saturday.
Okay.
He was in Hungary and gave me an incredible view on how the new fans are watching Formula One, and he gave an incredible perspective to see how we can really simplify things, because the new fans are not understanding the truth of what is behind the scenes. They are fascinated by the fact that there's a lot of action. There is definitely the need for the ones that are so focused on that to have the right information, but for the vast majority of the people, trust me, they just want to see what's happening on the track. They are not interested in the angle of the throttle or the brake pressure in how you can overtake.
Okay, Boomer. Yeah, whatever. Fucking
This is really
Shut up.
This is really alarming to me, because like this is the kind of thinking that completely guts your product.
yeah, kills any of the enthusiast fan base. Like, just like it's such a myopic oversimplification of like who watches your sport. Like, who watches your sport is circles within circles within circles, intersecting and everything. God, I sound like I'm in Blade Runner getting my check after coming back to
You turn over a turtle.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, of different people who watch for different reasons, for social reasons, familial reasons, ways they were raised, interest in the locations, the driver, various
But just like Star
interpretations
Wars,
of this.
it's only interesting because there is a vast, like, there's a
There's depth to it. Yeah.
You know,
totally.
and you're only
Yeah.
seeing the tip of the iceberg. And so if you just gut all of that, you just pretend that the only interesting thing is what's on the surface, then it becomes boring.
Well, if you want to talk to somebody who completely misinterprets why people love a thing they made, then you've got George Lucas as
the arbiter of what the people want, George Lucas.
Yeah. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about like how organizations get destroyed, the better graphics thing or the complete throttle battery gear selection, like, it's information. I don't think it puts people off. That I actually think that it's beautifully designed to use the halo. It's discreet. It's out of the way. It's there if you want it. It's not. The thing that this overlooks is like people can tune it out if they don't want that information.
Yeah.
It's not like they're distracted by the
Totally.
Like it's optional. But the thing that is alarming is more if this is an accurate portrayal of how this decision came about. This is now nightmare boss territory of the boss talked to one of his rich friends.
Yeah.
And he thought his rich friend said something smart.
He had a great idea.
We have to pretend that like this is like the God's honest truth, being given to us. I don't think George Lucas knows how new fans are watching F1. I think George Lucas is... Again, this is a guy who used V12 audio samples for the Phantom Menace pod race. He's an old school racing fan, and he likes big engines and
American Graffiti, baby.
I just don't think he has a representative sample of like, let me tell you what people are getting out of the sport. He doesn't know that.
I probably just wanted to get out of this conversation with Stefano Domenicali. You know what I mean? Like, George Lucas goes to a thing. He doesn't know who Stefano Domenicali is. He doesn't care. He doesn't like leaving his house. He likes going to that one coffee shop in Marin that he saved during COVID and just like being a quiet guy, just hanging out. And so he's probably like, yeah, you know what? People don't care about that stuff. They just want to see. And then Stefano's, fuck these. Anyway, we're at the whims of these leaders. And it also looks like they are reneging on another restriction that they had.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the headlines are FIA is lifting the ban on Russian drivers and teams. It's really the races are the headline is lifts restrictions on Russian drivers and teams. So previously, drivers from Russia or Belarus were allowed to participate, but just not under their own country's flags. If they had dual citizenship, they could compete as the other citizenship. Or they could race under the FIA flag, a lot of ways that like independent Olympic athlete. That was apparently an emergency measure And it sounds like that has expired. The FIA basically said that requirement no longer applies. They also had to, under the emergency measure, sign a commitment to neutrality. That also no longer applies. They haven't said why. They are doing this now, but athletes, drivers, and teams can now support under the banners of Russia and Belarus. They are still upholding restrictions on racing in Russia or Belarus, but the drivers can now compete under their flag.
So Sochi's not coming back, but Mazepin could be.
Yeah, exactly. Last I checked, the war was still happening. So if you were angry about this at one point, why aren't you now?
Hey man, those drones, they can get just about anywhere now. We know how many races. We'll see how this season ends. So yeah, they're not gonna.
I mean, I do think there's a couple things. Like, there is an element of these restrictions are hard to sustain the longer something goes on, and you begin having the question of, like, if you're talking about Russian nationals who are trying to compete in sport abroad, do you want to continue like levying restrictions against just individuals on that front? And that stance does get harder to justify when you do not have like similar stances against Israeli athletes or,
well, again,
honestly,
they're not
American
barring
athletes.
anyone. It's just the banner under which they compete.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be, the people should just embrace it, just like make up a country. You know what I mean? I'm from Pierogi land. Oh wait, that is Poland. Do your own thing. Where do you think the FIA country would be based? Probably like Qatar.
Oh, tax shelter.
I imagine.
Yeah, whatever.
Like
The
for
Seychelles.
Cyprus. It'd be Cyprus. It's 100% Cyprus. So you're saying like they had available to them the compete under like neutral national flag option that I think Russian athletes were using after the doping scandal. In Olympic athletics. And so they could have stuck with that stance, but instead now they're pulling back from it.
Yeah, and the race in this article points out, it's great reporting, the FIM, which is the motorcycle equivalent of the FIA, has upheld a full ban on Russian and Belarusian individuals from international motorcycle racing events.
Bike people are so cool. They're just so cooler than us. They got fewer wheels. They got more balls. Right. I wonder which flavor of motorsport this most deeply affects. Like, I wonder if it's rally or something. You know, like where's
the pressure coming from? Like,
well, there's nothing happening like in F1. I'm sure there is, in terms of, there's probably pressure from people who own companies that want to be involved in F1 to some degree, Russian oligarchs and whatnot. But like in terms of the actual drivers themselves, there's no massive, Danny Kvyat shaped hole in F1 at the moment, or Nikita Mazepin shaped hole. But
didn't he have Italian citizenship?
Oh yeah, Kvyat. I think he was dual. Yeah, Nikita was built in a fertilizer farm, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder which one it is. I suspect it's probably rally or something. I don't know. I don't know too many rallying from Russian drivers. Russians, kind of, considering how many people they have, they're kind of not that impactful in the world of motorsport.
A couple quick hits here, Danny.
Sure.
Got to cram the rest of this episode in for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, so just really super quick here. There's a bit of scuttlebutt about what's going to happen at the end of the season. Just talking about what we were saying earlier with the Middle East races, obviously under threat because of this ridiculous war of aggression that's occurring around Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. So there's, who knows what's going to happen, but there has been scuttlebutt that Imola might get pulled in. And this would be the end of the season as well, of course, because Abu Dhabi is the final race of the season. And then the other one is, we've done Bahrain, we've done Jeddah, Qatar, is it?
Yep.
I think. So those are the two that are most a threat. So yeah, Imola has been talked about as an ender. It's the idea of finishing the F1 season at Imola just seems very odd and like not even throwback, because I don't think it never was the end one. I would love for them to do something like let's do Japan or Interlagos. You know what I mean? Let's bring back the classic final stage. But yeah, so there's a possible change to Imola there. We'll keep reporting on it and keep letting you know what the latest is. But obviously, that's from the reporting, it sounds like that's going to continue on. Those decisions are going to continue right up until the 11th hour. And then the last thing is to say that Alex Albon has signed an extension to his contract. He will stay at Williams in 2027. Nothing further past that. But yeah, he joined the team in 2022. I want to say so. He's been there for a hot minute, through good and bad, and yeah, having an interesting season this year. Not quite back up the pecking order, but he will be there in 2027.
Okay, that's it for news. Shall we take it to the upcoming race, Danny, at Zandvoort?
Yes, we return to Zandvoort for the final time, as it turns out. So Zandvoort came back in 2020. It was a sort of a historical track based on the northwestern coast of the Netherlands, sort of this seaside town. I mean, it looks like it's sand dunes and a sort of a go-kart-esque track. Originally built and raced on in 1952, it was sort of used in the mid 80s in F1 for quite a while, and then fell out of favor. And then it was gone for a long time. And like I said, came back in 2020 during the COVID season as a sort of a bit of a fixer. Actually, no, it had been planned for a while there. And then it sort of became a bit of a mainstay, largely off of the back, I would say, of Max Verstappen's popularity within the sport. Spa-Francorchamps has often been his sort of home away from home race, but this is very much his home race. So he will be enjoying this race, I'm sure, as much as possible. It's an interesting track, 72 laps, 4.26 kilometers, 2.6 miles. A lot of turns, a lot of very strange turns. It's got a banked section in it. It's tight though. It's like the New Jersey Turnpike of F1 tracks. There's not really that much space to get around people. There aren't really that many aggressive braking zones in which to do it. Like sort of turn one is the only one because you come off that bank track and you kind of push down into the first turn. But yeah, it's I'm not sure it's provided great races outside of the times that we have enjoyed inclement weather. There was one a couple of years back where a pretty big sort of front came off the North Sea there or whatever. And
2023 I have here listed as bonkers with the note intermittent rain.
Yeah, it was the last half of that race, I remember, is where it all just strategy got thrown in the air and people were hanging on for dear life. But yeah, I won't miss it. I think it's an interesting track. It is perhaps the biggest, aside from Monaco, obviously, which is its own beast. I think it is one of the biggest trouble spots or sore spots for these cars have gotten too big and fast problem. It's an odd one. I outside of Verstappen being in the sport, I don't think this track ever comes back. And yeah, was considering he might not be in the sport much longer. Maybe it's the right time for it to bow out.
Yeah, I've my personal ratings last 5 years have been all over the place. In 2021, I rated it a 1 for a procession, which yeah, a couple. 3 ratings, a 2 rating. Last year was a 3. Hamilton crashed in the banking safety car. Antonelli hit Leclerc in the banking safety car.
Right.
Norris engine failure, promoting Hadjar to 3rd. Restarts kept the field close and led to Behrman finishing 6th from a pit lane start. Okay, that's cool.
Ricardo hurt his wrist on that.
That's right. It ruined Ricardo's career.
It did. Avoiding Lawson, was it? I think.
Or Alonso?
Somebody with A&L in their name. Yeah, exactly. The banking is an interesting spot. Interesting to see how the cars do around here because there's not that many. There's like 2 kind of straights, I guess. There's one straight and one sort of half straight, but lots and lots of sort of mid-speed braking opportunities. So I don't know. Maybe this will be good for batteries. Maybe it'll be interesting battery play going on here.
What batteries, Danny? That's too complicated.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Weather-wise, looks to be quite cool across the weekend. 66 high Fahrenheit or 19 Celsius. Precipitation somewhat high, like 35% on sprint qualifying day, because yes, it is a sprint weekend.
It is.
So that's Friday. Saturday, we're looking at like 15% chance for the sprint and for qualifying. And the race dips down to closer to 10.
I think I think the sprint stuff as well is going to be very beneficial to a lot of teams, because there are people bringing upgrades in this weekend. There's word that Aston is bringing in a big one, new engine, and maybe dropping back the two boys, although not that far back from where they probably would qualify. Although Alonso had a decent qualification last race. So and especially for like crowds like Red Bull, where balance is super important for them. And this is a track that really, just with the amount of turns and the angles and whatnot, this is a track that requires that finely tuned balance. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a rangefinder the sprint race is, because they don't have all that much time to dial it in.
Yeah, and watch for wind, because it is a coastal track. And
yes, it is.
Winds
big
can
time.
get up to 11 miles an hour, 18 kilometers.
Oh, yeah. Ever been to the Netherlands?
North Sea?
Yeah.
I just shared a link with you, though. Look what this track used to look like before the F1 rebuild. Back in, this is a 2014 legacy open wheel race where I think Max was competing. This was a gorgeous track, man. Like...
all the sand. Look at all
yeah,
that
it's
sand.
just a beautiful track, like tracing a ribbon through the dunes. And I think that the other part of this is in making the track into an F1 like stadium effectively, they kind of killed what made Zandvoort interesting. It
looks
feels
weirdly
like
wider here. Oh no, it's because the cars are
The
small.
cars are just smaller, yeah.
I was wondering.
the cars are very baby for sure.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's
Oh
an
my
old
God.
Max Verstappen race from 2014 that we'll put in the show notes. But heading into the Zandvoort round, Kimi Antonelli leads the Drivers' Championship with 219 points. Lewis Hamilton is in second with 169, ahead of George Russell in third with 160.
Nice.
Yes. Charles Leclerc in fourth with 138. Lando Norris in fifth with 128. Max Verstappen is in sixth place with 109 points. Oscar Piastri seventh with 92. Isaac Hadjar, the other Red Bull, in eighth with 68. Then we've got Liam Lawson in ninth with 43 and Pierre Gasly in 10th with 42. Arvid Lindblad is in 11th with 23. Franco Colapinto in 12th with 19. Oliver Behrman in 13th with 18 points. Gabriel Bortoleto in 14th with 10. Carlos Sainz in 15th with 6. Then Alex Albon with 5. Esteban Ocon with 3. Hulkenberg with 2. Alonso with 1. And then Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, and Sergio Perez all with 0. In the team standings, Mercedes is on top with 379 points to Ferrari's 307. McLaren is in third with 220, then Red Bull with 177. Racing Bulls is in fifth with 66, Alpine in sixth with 61. Then Gene Haas and team in seventh with 21 points. Audi has 12, Williams has 11, Aston Martin has 1, and Cadillac with 0. Yes, if you'd like to join the standings yourself, you can do so using the link in our show notes to the official Shift F1 Fantasy League. We're halfway through the season, so get in there now. You can also send us an email if you like. shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails.
Rub Zugny.
Rub that lamp and see what emails come out, Rob. What do we got?
Rob Zachney would be a great OnlyFans name.
Yeah, let's
Just
not go
put that
there.
out there.
All right, so Andres writes, I'm Colombian, and I've been following F1 since the Juan Pablo Montoya years. A few years ago, I got my girlfriend interested in the sport through Drive to Survive. She loved it and watched every race with me for the past 2 years. She even tells me a lot of the stuff I don't know. She now follows multiple F1-related social media accounts, but after Spa, she announced she's officially out. She just doesn't care anymore, and watching the races feels like a chore with little payoff.
Yeah, too much battery.
I asked her why. These were the reasons she gave me. In Drive to Survive, it felt like the drivers had big personalities, but in real life, they all feel like they're extremely media-trained rich kids. Even in situations where there was a lot of tension, like Lando and Piastri's title race, they were very polite and at least outwardly calm. This does not help the soap opera side of things. The battery management is too complicated. It's fine that there are elements of the engineering that the general audience doesn't understand, but so many overtakes and crashes recently come down to the battery that it feels random and outside the driver's control.
If only we had some insight into what's going on in there.
There are too many races. It's hard to keep up with each, and individual races feel meaningless in the greater scheme of things, and the novelty is worn off. She's seen all the tracks multiple times, all the drivers close to 100 times, and the initial fun is done. I always follow F1, but I always wonder how many casual fans that got into it through Drive to Survive are in the same boat as her. And since all these insane media deals were done with the expectation the audience would keep growing, what will happen if the audience actually shrinks, Andres? So there's a few things there. I think the thing that was always a little bit double-edged with the Drive to Survive thing was that there's a trap when you introduce people to a new product packaged in a way that's really unlike the product itself, that these are not durable fans. You're going to retain some of them, but a lot are going to get into the thing, and then they might decide it's not for them. And it kind of sounds like that point arrived for her, and I think that's always sort of been the trade-off: is you're exposing the sport to more people, you get some of them to stay, and some of them you will over time lose. But I do think there is also a lot to this, like the push toward younger and younger drivers and these sort of long-term deals and the professionalism the drivers have to show from like an early age does mean that you do not have a lot of like interesting contrasting personalities on the grid, and by the time maybe they start being established a little more as characters, they're already like pushing 30, and the sport is kind of looking to the new young thing. And then I F1 with that new audience, like it's the same with every sport. Every sport is convinced like we just need to get more events. Like football badly. They went to a 17-week. American football went to a 17-week.
It's an easy
schedule.
way to.
They want to go to 18. Everyone says NBA basketball, probably too many regular season games that don't matter enough. Doesn't matter. They want to fill the seats. They want the TV revenues. They're never going to cut games. F1 is in that same boat where they just like they looked at a racing series that used to be like 15, 18
12
races long, and now they're like 24 is a good number to hit. And that is the trade-off you were making with a saturation thing, where
sprinkling some sprints.
And I think a lot of the tracks that they've gone to have been bad tracks. Like I think this is I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again in this podcast sometimes, but like I do think that, like, as much as we complained about the Tilkedromes, I think at a certain stage them doing all these Petro State I mean, there's issues with the car stuff as well, of course, but like, I think a lot of these, some of them were inspired. I think, like, weirdly, I think Vegas ended up being like a smart call from a pageantry kind of perspective, even if it's not necessarily my favorite track. But I think some of those calls, I agree with Rob. I think you're always going to have a bit of detritus sort of when it comes to new fan bases. A lot of it is based on getting those hooks in deep enough that people stick around or maybe bounce away and come back. It's always been an issue with motorsport in particular, where, outside of a driver being from a country and then there being a lot of fans, like there was a lot more Formula One fans watching in Ireland, I suspect, when Eddie Jordan and Eddie Irvine were around in the sport. And in this mortal coil, respectively. The issue you run into with F1 is, of course, is that, like, you don't get that type of hook in a lot of the time. Most of the drivers are from Central Europe, a lot of them from France and stuff like that. So you don't get that at the moment. I think there is a particular. I said this, I think, a few times this season. I think the 2026 season is, for whatever reason, has a particular lack of interesting elements that go into making a cool Formula One season. I think the fight at the top isn't as interesting because Kimi is such a sweet little baby. I think there isn't as much of a genuine mid-pack battle. I feel like perhaps people aren't even taking this year all that seriously because it is a new regulation change and because another one is sort of coming down the pipeline. So in a weird way, this season is kind of like a stunt season. yeah, I think the narratives just really aren't there. And sometimes we go into a season and we have like 2 or 3 strong little narratives going on with like different drivers or teammates or whatever it is, and everything feels a little bit safe at the
Feels
moment.
like everyone's wrapping their head around the new regs and
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, and I want to clarify something about that I was saying about the battery. I agree. It is too complicated. Like super clipping, to have to just like explain what that is on a broadcast is a little ludicrous. I think you can't have it both ways. I think you either don't have that system or you have it and you have to explain what's happening. Otherwise, things just happen and you don't know why, and that's when people tune out.
We're getting a lot of that too. We're getting a lot of something happened and now the commentary team is going to try and reverse engineer the moment.
Yeah.
And that is not a fun way to enjoy a sport. People need to be in the moment. They need to see the ball go over the wall. They need to see the back of the net ripple. It's not the same when you're covering it that way. And also there just hasn't been that much crazy wheel-to-reel high stakes racing. Like, you know, if George Russell keeps binning it and putting it in the wall or something,
I saw someone
you know,
on our Discord saying that if Kimi wins a championship, Kimi will be the youngest championship winner if he wins any time in the next 4 years.
wow, yeah, that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel was 23. Also, last thing I'll say, Lando used to have a personality.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. We lost Danny Rick.
Yeah.
We everyone's kind of chill.
I think Lando still has a personality. It's just he alternates now between dirtbag on a yacht, as we saw over the summer vacation, and then very serious, self-loathing angst machine.
But he got his championship, so I also think that made a difference. Like, I think he got the monkey off his back. Like, that was his arc, and now he's done it. Like, what do you do
now
with
he can go back
Lando
to
Norris
posting
season
memes.
2? You know, yeah, I guess. But that is a genuine problem. Is like the arc of some of these people, you know. And it's a great email as well, because like Andreas's partner hits the nail on the head in that a lot of these people aren't that interesting. Especially the ones who have been bred in a test tube to be Formula One drivers. Because, like, what else have they got going on in their lives?
Racing.
You know,
Max Verstappen takes breaks from racing to go race.
But he's interesting because at least he's got like this weird familial thing. He's got his businesses, his streaming. I mean, when compared to,
I think
when compared to Lance Stroll.
I think Max.
Sorry to bag on Lance all the time.
Max is interesting from the standpoint of like, he is the most like sickos. Like, I just want to race. Like, this is the
I think that's interesting. Yes,
I think that is cool. But I do think a lot of it too is it's such a demanding sport, and now they are so controlled that like it kind of seems like you also have a way of like slightly introverted homebodies.
Yeah.
In the sport, and part of it is they're just such global figures now that fame is different than it was in the 80s and 70s. Like, it is a much more the existence of the iPhone, right, of smartphones. Like, you're always on camera now. You cannot go anywhere and do anything and be like unobserved. And so I think a lot of these guys are kind of always shields up and they're super introverted. Like, Lewis Hamilton basically turned into a recluse after his, like, you know, he's been a celebrity for a number of years, but if you go back to like 2008 or thereabouts, he was like totally leaning into it and like was out there as a personality and a sports star. And then sometime after that, he becomes a guy who, like, I think he's just hiding out in Colorado now for like 3 months out of the year. And I think a lot of athletes in their various ways do end up in a similar boat where it's like they kind of venture out and for like controlled, almost like media appearances in their own lives, and then they kind of disappear. And I don't think it's a recipe for developing interesting inner life.
I also think that like it's 15 years ago, we didn't have this 24/7 news cycle that these guys have to dance to. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we got a lot of mileage out of Kimi Räikkönen. I was having a shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that anymore. Like, they are doing more media than ever before. And in a way, maybe we're just getting oversaturated with it. Like, that could also be part of it. Anyway.
All right, let's move on.
Next one's for me, right, Logan?
Yep.
Awesome. Logan writes in. What'd you say?
It's a big one.
It's a big one. All right. Hey, Shifties. Since it's the email episode, I thought we could share. I could share a little American racing history, especially after a joke comment about motorcycles in World War One, and it connects closely with early Grand Prix racing. To start with, bicycle racing was huge before World War I. In the 1880s and 90s, velodromes were built all over the United States, mirroring those in Europe. Shortly after the turn of the century, bicycles gave way to motorcycles and motor cars. In some places, the velodromes were left aside for the roads. Savannah, Georgia, held the first U.S. Grand Prize, not Prix, from 1908 to 1911, in part because it was an established location for bicycles, with many of the garage facilities from the velodrome being reused. There are incredible stories and photos from these events, including literal chain gangs oiling the dirt track, to the president of Firestone having to sleep in a town jail and eventually losing the AAA's blessing to Milwaukee and Indy, but that's for another time. Ultimately, Grand Prix racing died in the US to something far more accessible and dangerous: board track racing. That's BOARD. In 1910s, North America, concrete and tarmac velodromes were too expensive. So new motodromes, or often murder-dromes, were built out of timber. Daredevils raced around these things at up to 100 miles an hour, around quarter-mile circles, up to 60 degrees of banking, because they were built completely by hand. And wood treatment was non-existent. These things would be completely rotten in 2 to 5 years. All a driver had to do was hit one board that had rotted or wiggled a nail loose, and havoc would ensue. Engines of the day sprayed and burned all matter of oil. So by the end of those races, the course was often slick, and riders/drivers would have their goggles coated near solid, having endured 2 to 3 Gs for hours. The documented casualties from both competitors and the crowd would make even the book sweat. And people at the time knew it too, given the Murderdrome name. All it did was lead cities to move these events outside the city limits to 1 to 2 mile long ovals, which they felt were safer, and for which they were less liable. Eventually, board track also petered out due to the Great Depression. Those longer tracks cost more. They were too hard to get to rather than being squarely in the middle of a city. And due to being made out of dang wood, maintenance costs were astronomical if the venue wasn't completely abandoned outright. But alongside a few permanent venues of the day, like Indy, they hammered home what motor racing looked like to a huge portion of the American public. Banked curves, exceptionally wide racing surfaces, and an emphasis on pure speed. For a while there, it was a metaphorical algae boom that extinguished Grand Prix in North America, snuffed out uncountable lives of racing legends, and set the scene for later oval racing in NASCAR and IndyCar as we know it today. Take that, book. And that's from Logan. Thank you, Logan. That was fascinating.
That sounds awesome. Like,
Look, this, F1 might be boring. And we're not asking for the monkey paw, but some of that stuff sounded all right.
I'm sensitive to the dangers of grievous bodily harm and the trauma inflicted on people who have motorcycles burning, cartwheeling into crowds. But this sounds sick as hell.
I mean, it sounds like a better version of the Great Race. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like wood tracks, oil spills. It's just the whole thing sounds like a nightmare. It's funny how like World War I and World War II just culturally also create. We talked about it before with F1 a lot, where a lot of these guys came back and just the meaning of life and death was so very different to them, and what danger was, and what danger was to a country like England that had been, survived the Blitz. You know what I mean?
Every time I read about this era, it's like these people are alien to me on this. Like they're a lot like us, because like you can see a lot of like modern technology begin to take shape. But the thing that makes it profoundly alien is like I can't understand a world where people are crowding by racetracks and like routinely drivers are dying right and left, and so are spectators, and people are just like, I'm going to the next one. Like it is such an alien thing, and I think you're right. Like part of it's the war. I also wonder it's just it's a more, the whole world was less safe. Like grievous bodily harm and like death in minor accidents,
infant mortality.
Yeah,
you know.
it's just like death is such a companion that like, well, at
Yeah.
least you can die going to work and playing it safe, so you might as well go have fun. Maybe you'll die there too.
I do think there are periods in your life, without getting too dark, like there were a couple of years where I was a teenager where like a lot of people are, not a lot of people, like more than you would like amount of people around in my circle, social circle and family died. And I do remember getting bleakly used to it, like in a way that was like kind of upsetting. Like if I go back and think about that period now and my relationship with death, it was very different. And I just think that like if you've been through a war and like seen friends, like that sort of stuff, that's insane to me. I can't even imagine put myself in those shoes. But also I think if you lived on a continent that experienced such insane levels of human suffering and death, like it totally has to change. Like you think about Italy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and everything between the wars and then Mussolini coming to power and like all that sort of stuff. Like, no wonder they had this like pent up need to live, you know what I mean? Like, and die. It's so different to what we have today. Thankfully, obviously, but like, yeah, you're right. They do seem like aliens in many ways, those people. That was not that long ago.
Also an alien, Martin Brundle. Drew, you want to read this next one?
Yes. Dusty writes.
This is a great email.
So I'm watching the 2012 F1 season over the summer break, as one does. In the Chinese Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher gets beached on the grass on lap 13. Martin Brundle comments, "I haven't been this disappointed since Shrek 2." A movie that came out 8 years prior. I just needed to share this. I am dying.
This is a classic Brundle line that I am so glad somebody didn't just like find a YouTube montage of funny F1 lines. They naturally came across it while watching a highlight. That is beautiful. I remember that line. It's so ridiculous. It's such a British thing to say. It's so funny and so, like he knows what he's saying. That he's sounding stupid. Like that's part of the problem.
If I remember right, it sounds like he's smiling as he says it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll see if I can find a link for the show notes. I've got 2 minutes left here, so let me close out my stuff. And if you want to, Rob, do you want to come back to the emails?
Yeah, we can finish up these emails and then close out the stuff and then we'll wrap.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to hit us up on the socials,
Money Penny. If you want to hit us up on the socials, Money Penny.
Follow the link in the show notes. You could also follow us on the social. Email us to shift.podcast@gmail.com or fn.cool/emails. That's us around the internet. Should we take it around the world real quick?
Let's race around the bear.
We've got the Craftsman trucks at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire for the, Graham, Team EJP175.
Wow.
Don't know what that
It's getting
means.
Loudon and Loudon.
I'm holding out for the INTJ 200.
The Repco Supercars are at Queensland Raceway in Willowbank, Queensland, Australia. Yep.
Queensland.
The Motocross Grand Prix also in the Netherlands at Motorsport Park Gelderland Midden in Arnhem, the Netherlands. Super GT is at the Suzuka circuit in Suzuka-shi, Mie Prefecture.
Oh.
The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia for the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. IndyCar, here we go, boys. The IndyCar Grand Prix of Washington in D.C. Moving on.
Is that a new one?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Is that America 250? Is that what it is?
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Is this real? All right. Okay. The NHRA is in Brainerd.
Brainerd.
What is MN? Is that Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Yeah.
What?
At the Brainerd International Raceway for the Brainerd Nationals.
Brainerd.
I barely knew her. And we got NASCAR. Also
We're
in New
Brainerd.
Hampshire for the Dollar Tree 301.
I was in a Dollar Tree with my daughter 2 days ago. We bought a cheap toy.
Was it $1?
It was. Oh no, we didn't. We went next door to the Five Below. We got something there. We were feeling a little bit fancy.
A little flush.
We did, yeah.
And Formula One, maybe you've heard of it. Friday, August 21st, things kick off this sprint weekend. Free practice 1 is at 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, followed by sprint qualifying at 10:30 a.m. Saturday, August 22nd, the sprint is at 6 a.m. Eastern, followed by qualifying for the race at 10 a.m. But the race, everyone, Sunday, August 23rd at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific.
Hopefully the clouds wake up early too.
All right. I have to bail, but
do your thing.
Maybe you guys can finish off these emails
Yep.
and read from the book.
We'll do it.
All right.
See you, Drew. Bye,
See
Drew.
ya.
Bye, Drew. Go be a dad and a person. All right, that fucking.
All right, now
That
now for some
guy.
fun.
That guy. God,
All right.
he's handsome. He's very handsome.
So email here. Read it now because it's still fairly timely. Joe writes, as F1 fans, you're very well educated in the minutia of whether a driver has the lead at a corner or not. Using that knowledge, I would love your perspective of the Celia Gary Cassia Nui incident at the base of the final climb in Nice. If you didn't see it, here's a video. This is at the Women's Tour de France. If you didn't see it, here's a video. In essence, Gary was leading her teammate Demi Vollering towards that corner. It seems the team's plan was that Gary would swap right before the corner. Gary would then drop off the back of Vollering's wheel right as she accelerated out of the corner. This would create a bigger gap for Nui to catch back up. But Nui saw it coming and tried to get around to the outside of Gary in the corner. The footage is unclear, but it looks that Gary then pushes Nui wide and almost into the barrier. There's been a big hullabaloo over this, but unlike F1, the conversation is about the incident. As an F1 fan as well, I watched this, and it looks like Nui had the corner, or maybe we shouldn't extrapolate the rules between sports. Dan, did you pull up the video of this?
I did, yeah. It is. I would say it is Verstappen-esque. It sort of feels in that, like, you know, that she doesn't leave much space, maybe. But like, I don't know. I've watched, like, I'm not a cycling expert, but like I watched a decent amount of road racing in my lifetime. This doesn't seem like that big an incident. Like maybe because of maybe was it near the end of the race? I'm guessing. And
this was the decisive moment. Like Vollering escaped at this moment and took a lead that she would then take into the championship. She won the race the next day.
I've seen worse stuff in the 800 meters. You know what I mean? Like elbows and people getting in people's way and tangling legs, and this isn't. Yeah, but this is a byproduct of what happens with racing fandom, because we do the same thing, right? As Joe says, like sometimes an hour and a half race comes down to one turn, and we analyze that turn and the motivations over and over and over again. So I totally get it, but it doesn't seem seem all that bad.
I mean, so the rules are a little bit different in cycling, I think, in part because the risk of a collision is so much higher. That if somebody gets tossed into a barrier or over a barrier, that is a huge injury. Whereas in an F1 car, like even being pushed into a barrier, not having room, you're not dealing with the same level of harm.
And it's more like Indy or something where like a crash is more likely to create crashes behind it in cycling in a way that isn't really the case in F1, except for like a first lap.
Yeah, so they're very aggro about like people holding their line and not deviating from their line. Certainly in sprints. I'm less familiar with the rules about in like cornering scenarios like this. But yeah, I had the same impression where it's like as someone who watches a lot of racing, I'm like, oh yeah, she ran Nui out wide. That is 100% like that is the nope. I'm taking you to the wall, and you have a choice about how you play that. And Nui was pissed, but also you always have to remember these things are political too. Where that's Nui putting the marker down of, hey, I'm a premier rider in the sport, same as Vollering, and I'm not going to take the shit. Like, officials need to be monitoring for how Vollring's teammates are racing and how they're racing me. And so that's kind of why you make a huge deal out of this, because you're sort of fighting the next battle for the officials, or otherwise they'll test you in other places. So you kind of have to stand up for yourself and make the issue. I think it's in a gray area for sure, but it's also like a total Fortunes of War type moment. But yeah, in terms of like, what does this look like? 100%. Like she's running her up to the curb. That's what's happening. Beyond that, how bad is it? It doesn't seem that bad. To me, that's just good hard racing.
Fair.
Dan, you want to read this next one from Jacob?
Sure. This is maybe more of a geopolitics question than a racing question, but why is nobody talking about cancelling the Azerbaijan Grand Prix? Azerbaijan shares a land border with Iran. Presumably, it is also in range of whatever Iranian weaponry is threatening the other Middle Eastern GPs. Yet everyone involved seems blithely unconcerned about Azerbaijan Grand Prix, even while talking about cancelling other races that are further in the future. Why do you think that is? So yes, I'm not a political commentator. I'm not an expert when it comes to Middle Eastern foreign politics, but from what I gather, and again, this could be completely unfounded. Maybe Rob, you know more about this. Iran and Azerbaijan have sort of a more complicated relationship. Like historically, there's a decent amount of like Iranians that live in Azerbaijan, and I think vice versa in northern Iran. Azerbaijan is sort of like a separate front, it would be, because they came out and basically they're in a weird spot because they came out and sort of declared neutrality. They obviously have a lot of ties to Israel as well with their petro stuff, obviously with the US as well, but they're not like part of the sort of multipolar like Middle Eastern bloc that so many of the other targets, let's say, for Iranian drones have been for the past couple of months. So to me, it would be like, it'd be like Iran, starting and instigating some sort of conflict with Turkey at the moment or something. It would be a separate front that I don't think would benefit Iran in any way, shape, or form to start, essentially like just dragging more people into this conflict. So I think that's why I think it's a fair point to sort of like remind people like sort of where in the like, I don't know, general northern Middle Eastern Turkic world Azerbaijan is, and that it is close. I mean, Iran's a massive country as well, so it does like border, it doesn't border too many countries, but it's within range of a lot of countries.
It's in a lot though, like because where it's located, it has one side facing like the Arab Peninsula, the Arabian Peninsula, right, and the Middle East. And then the other side, you're dealing with like Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, like, in
the subcontinent, as we called it in Europe.
Yeah. And then to the north, you have, like southern Russia, Turkey, Caspian Sea interests.
Ukraine, weirdly,
and they all have different politics. And that is the thing, is that like Iran is in a different, think of it as a different front is a really good way to think of it. Iran is in a conflict with an entire security and alliance structure,
right,
that Azerbaijan is not really a part of. I was surprised that like early in the war, I had missed that there was a drone strike apparently from Iran into Azerbaijan early days of the war, and like things are tense, but it does not seem like it has continued beyond that. And I think fundamentally that is the reason people are not concerned about this, is because Azerbaijan is not really in this war, and Iran has their own reasons for not. These races are not in jeopardy because Iran is just striking places
willy-nilly
to fuck with them, because that would actually. Iran's position is like they are on the defensive in this, and the United States and its allies are the aggressors, and Iran has to like play its cards fairly carefully, because the thing that you've always been able to lay at the feet of Iran is Iran's strategic deterrent has been terror groups and guerrilla groups throughout the Middle East.
Middle East, right? Yeah.
And so that is why when Iran gets treated as like a rogue state, a dangerous like exporter of terror around the region, is because that is their strategic deterrent against the United States and its Arab allies and Israel. If they can't just start firing missiles to mess around with things that are big global events, because that feeds into this narrative that they are a rogue state that they are aggressors, and that sort of tightens the cordon around Iran. You're better off making it very clear, people who are in this alliance against the United States and actively taking part in this war, they are targets. Things that events that they are putting on, they don't get to have them without the threat of violence, because we're under attack and we can't do anything without the threat of violence. But
and a lot of these countries were also, like UAE, were sending shells over across the strait directly into Iran. So they're using
U.S. bases, airspace, etc.
Yeah. Kuwait, obviously,
the region.
Yeah, that's why they bombed Kuwait and not Iraq, because or Yemen or Oman, because there are countries that are part of this sort of U.S.-Israeli security apparatus, and then there are countries that are not. And Azerbaijan, while somewhat connected via petro and everything else to the global economy, obviously, and lots of other stuff, politically and in terms of militarily, they're not. And you get a lot of this in this part of the world, because a lot of these countries are sitting between the former Soviet bloc and this Middle Eastern bloc. So there is a lot of very delicate politicking going on between these countries, right?
A thing that is really easy to misunderstand is you do need to think of it as almost different faces or different facets that these countries have, where Iran, oriented toward the Persian Gulf, has a very different set of interests and goals than Iran facing toward Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I remember reading about when the United States went to Afghanistan, Iran was basically an active participant against the Taliban. They hated the Taliban. They sort of helped out the United States across the board. And then United States defense people were surprised when Iran was way less cooperative and indeed kind of hostile when Iraq happened. And it was how could you not see that that's their name, that is in their backyard, that's going to produce a different reaction. But this is something that even professionals sometimes struggle to see, is that countries in different spheres take on completely different identities and relationships, because it's a different conversation, a different set of concerns, and Azerbaijan falls into that area.
And I think growing up in Europe, we sort of, I think this is something that is just more self-evident, because each country, there's one of my favorite things is to, there's this great video I watched years ago about countries talking about who their rival is. And it was really funny because the English kept thinking of all of these rivalries that they have, and none of the other countries were concerned about England as a rival. I don't like not even from a sporting perspective, but just from a cultural perspective. The Englands were oh well, us in France and us in Italy and us in Germany, and the Germans were no, it's us and the Dutch, and the French is us in Spain and Italy. You know what I mean? You grow up in a country, in a place like this, with these countries slammed together, everything gets a bit more nuanced and particular. Then perhaps people who grow up in a massive country like America maybe aren't as aware. I don't know.
No, it's
paint with a broad brush, but
yeah, you're not wrong though. As an American who does follow this stuff pretty closely, it is often, I hang out in a lot of leftist spaces, and the degree to which people do not understand that other countries also have their own politics and their own regional competitions and interests, and not everything is down to the U.S. is not the sole actor and mover of events in the world and pursuing interests. Every country is doing this, and it can just be harder to see. But in the case of Azerbaijan, it's that Azerbaijan's pretty clearly said, we're not in this. Iran seems like they're content leaving it there, and so it'd be pretty astonishing if they just started shelling Azerbaijan.
Are the Russians selling Iran? Iran's making their own drones. Is there anyone else selling? Because I'm also they definitely don't want to piss off, if they attacked Azerbaijan, the Russians would be really unimpressed by that. But I don't know.
I assume
They're probably not, right? Because them in Ukraine, whatever. We're getting too deep into this.
My assumption,
sorry,
my assumption is that China and Russia, regardless of like local regional interests, are feeding a lot of like electronics, munitions, etc., where they can.
GPS
to
stuff.
Iran.
I know the Chinese. Yeah.
So it is, and partly it is, again, when you see a conflict like this, it both weakens the strategic adversary, which the United States is of these other countries, but then grimly, these sorts of conflicts get treated as like laboratory experiments by other great powers. Like Ukraine has been treated as a thing important to study for like how drone warfare is coming along and maturing. And this is being treated as a laboratory for precision guided munitions and missiles and also drone warfare. So that is part of the dynamic with this stuff as well. I think that does it for emails.
Cool. John,
do
read
we
from
want
a
to
book.
turn to the grimoire? Yeah.
You know, on that happy note, let's open the book. Oh my god, the pages are stuck together with blood. This is weird. I swear it's blood. August 18th, Sterling Moss won the Pescara Grand Prix in Italy on this day in 1957. The Pescara circuit is remembered as the longest track to ever stage a World Championship Grand Prix. That's mad. I always assumed the old version of Spa was. At 16 miles long. What? Moss's pole position lap. The lap was 9 minutes, 44.6 seconds. And the race lasted only 18 laps.
Well, hang on, but 18 laps because it was 18. What's 18 times 16? It's a lot.
That's still 3 hours?
It's a long race.
What is it? 10-minute lap, 18 laps. It's 180 minutes.
Oh my God.
How many times do they have to refuel? Every lap did they have to refuel? That's crazy. I have never heard of that before. God, that's amazing. Oh my God. They should stick that in. It's probably in Project Cars or something. The 10-minute lap. Oh my God. Wildman Italian driver Andrea De I've just forgotten everyone's name. I've been away for a month. Why can I not say De Cesaris? Thank you. God, my brain. Wildman Italian driver Andrea De Cesaris, there we go, was living up to his name Andrea De Crasheris at the Austrian Grand Prix today. In 1985, when he had yet another spectacular incident, his Ligier went off the track and was pitched into a series of dramatic rolls. He walked away unscathed, but on arrival back to the pits, he was promptly sacked by Guy Ligier. The French team owner was getting fed up with having to pay for costly repairs to his cars and reportedly said, "I can no longer afford the services of this young man." There you go. He started French and I don't know. He was
got very Italian. Yeah.
He did. You've been paused on my screen this whole time, by the way, just for the last since Drew left. I don't know what happened, but it looks like you're asleep on my screen because you were blinking or something or looking down.
I can flicker I can bounce my camera.
There you go. That's probably going to mess up my recording, but you are back. Thank you. All right. That's it. That's a podcast, episode 360, done and dusted. Folks, thank you so much for your support. Patreon.com/Shift+F1 if you'd like to get access to all of our ramblings, our political podcasts, our movie reviews and whatnot. And we'll leave it there. Final words, Rob?
I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this. Can you talk about Rob's away next week, so we won't be here for the post race.
No, now we can't tease people with it. The time to talk about it was ages ago. I'll talk about it next time
when you get back.
When I'm back.
Okay,
yeah.
We don't like people taking time off this podcast, but let me tell you, this is about as good an excuse for time off of a racing podcast as I think I've ever heard. So. Godspeed. We'll hear about it on the other side, all right, bro?
Yeah, hopefully not on the news. All right.
He's going to back them. All right, that's it, folks. Talk to you soon. See you on the next one.